We've had a pair of cardinals hanging around Little Farm for the past several weeks. They periodically come to the bird feeder that's right off of our deck, and one morning I witnessed the most remarkable sight. Both the male and female were perched on the deck railing. The male then flew to the nearby feeder, picked up a sunflower seed, took it back to the female, and fed it to her. When she finished, he returned for another, probably 3 or 4 times, before they both perched on the feeder and fended for themselves. I had never seen anything like that before, and immediately went online to find out more. I discovered that this behavior is called courtship feeding, and though not unique to cardinals, they are an excellent example of it. It is a truly delicate, almost seemingly romantic act that this typically assertive bird initiates. However, I found that courtship feeding has absolutely nothing to do with romance. One theory is that the behavior is part of a mating ritual, allowing the female to assess the kind of parent that the male would be for her offspring. Another theory is that it may be a way of strengthening the bond between mates or providing a nesting female extra nutrition when she's unable to forage very much for herself. I also learned that cardinals mate for life, and both male and female care for the young. It is not surprising then that in Native American symbolism, the cardinal represents devotion, protection, and loving relationships. Cardinals are also said to be spiritual messengers, creating a link between you and someone you love who has passed away, come to remind you of the life force, energy, and deep capacity to love that is within you. I think the cardinals feeding each other on my deck were in fact giving me a sign. At least their behavior made me reflect on how COVID has continued to morph and change us, even since its surge began in mid-March. We are not the same people we were even 4 months ago. Back then, we were all so intent on being kind to one another and helping each other out. We offered balcony concerts to our neighbors and delivered groceries. We tried to smile with our eyes behind our masks. Some of us still do those things, but many of us have become mired in anxiety, fear, and negativity. We get angry at those who will not wear masks in public. We slog through the grocery store, seldom looking, let alone smiling at those we pass. We fearfully watch infection rates rise in many parts of our country and become, rightfully so, embittered by the president's insistence on reopening the economy at whatever human cost. Kindness and concerts, smiling and reaching out, they've all seemed to take in a back seat, it seems. I think this change is because none of us expected COVID to last this long. We presumed we would be back in church, for example, first by Easter, then by June, now maybe by September, but who knows really? And schools, they may still be closed come fall. We just don't know, and so are stuck in an in-between time. It's actually not unlike the early Christians who awaited Jesus' triumphant return. He would come tomorrow, they were sure, then maybe next week, next year, but who knows really? They were caught in an in-between time. I wonder if we today can learn any coping mechanisms from those first century folks. How did they deal with their uncertainty? For one thing, they created faithful communities that we later called churches. They pooled their resources and took care of the needy. They devoted themselves to the teachings of Jesus and formed loving relationships. They protected one another. They fed one another physically and spiritually. I bet on occasion they even did balcony concerts for their neighbors. Their way of coping is not unlike that of the male cardinal on my deck who fed his mate. No wonder cardinals are symbols of devotion, protection, and loving relationships. So, in our time of uncertainty, if you see a cardinal, may it be a sign to you, a reminder of the life force, energy, and deep capacity to love that is within all of us. A reminder to intentionally care for, feed, and protect one another which is so much more fulfilling than wallowing in negativity, fear, and anger.